Yes, you're still on to the conversation right here on LTV. And today, the impact of good governance will be continuing in Lagos State. Mr. President is on a two-day visit to the Center of Excellence, and we saw what happened yesterday at Okwebi, and of course, very close to the seat of power here, where some iconic projects were commissioned by Mr. President, who was ably represented by the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio. So that show of good governance will continue today, starting with the commissioning of group of schools inside Tolu Complex. And of course, from there, they will be moving to Victoria Island for a book launch. So this morning, we have some gentlemen in the studio with us. Together, we'll be looking at the will be impact of these iconic projects, and of course, how Lagos has been able to make judicious use of the taxpayers' money to impact people and, of course, add value to their living standards. We have with us in the studio Adewale Adeoye. He's a senior colleague in this profession and a political observer. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And, of course, the friend of the house, Razaq Olokoba, a public affairs analyst. It's a pleasure to have you as well.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right, let me start with you, Adewale. We saw what transpired yesterday in Lagos State, those iconic projects that were commissioned right here in Alausa, the multi-agency complex, and of course, the Okwebi Ojota Link Bridge. So for you, what would you ascribe to the quality of governance that we have experienced in Lagos State since 1999 till date? Because my colleague and I were saying this morning that Lagos is actually on autopilot because we have had a particular political party in government since 1999.
Well, I think we have to look at one index that points to, that encourages development, sustained development in Lagos, and that is political stability. Since 1999, Lagos has been ruled by the same political family, and that leads to continuity. Because in other states, when a government is out of power, there's always this search for vengeance that the successor will abandon some of the projects initiated by his predecessor. But in Lagos, we have seen some level of consistency. There is the same political trend, the same political party, and I think very few states enjoy that kind of advantage. When you have a particular political trend in power, it leads to some level of stability and continuity of projects that have been initiated. I remember that in Lagos State, the foundation, in 1999, the foundations of so many structures were laid by the former governor, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the BRT, the Green Project, which led to the planting of so many trees in Lagos, the Lekki project, that was, I think, almost completed now, and the Urban Renewal Project, So I think this has been sustained by the various governments that have been in power since 1999. If you are here before 1999, you imagine a Lagos with Molue, where people had to stand 50, Fela said 50 standing, 99, 50 sitting, 99 standing. You may not be able to appreciate how the transformation has taken place. But you are in Lagos in the 1980s and 90s. And if you go to Oshodi, for instance, in the 90s, it was a very chaotic place to live. Balogun and all sort of, so many other areas like that. So I think there has been gradual transformation of Lagos. Not forgetting the fact that the population of Lagos is increasing in geometric proportion. We are now talking about almost 25 to 27 million people. And I think from the figures we have, an average of 6,000 people enter Lagos every day. And out of that 6,000 people, only about 3,000 return back. They stay back, in Lagos. And Lagos should now be the third biggest, largest city in Africa. After Cairo, then Kinshasa in Congo. So Lagos has assumed the status of the fastest growing, city in Africa. So that means a lot of pressure in terms of infrastructure, in terms of utilities, the road, your housing units and all sorts of things. So it's a whole lot of pressure, being put on Lagos. And don't also forget that Lagos was denied a lot of opportunities. For instance, when the capital moved from Berlin, from Bonn to Berlin in Germany. They paid a lot of compensation. About 14 billion euro was paid to Bonn as compensation. And in fact, annually, Bonn still gets, I think about 10 million euro from the federal government in terms of infrastructure deficit, in terms of all sorts of things that Bonn lost for having the capital moved to Berlin. But that didn't happen in the case of Nigeria when the capital was moved from 1991 to Abuja. So there is a whole lot of deficits, a lot of things that Lagos has lost that you only have to depend on the resources earned, by the state government to meet all the expectations. And with the crisis in the middle belt, in the north and all that, people are moving to Lagos from all over West Africa. So there has been gradual improvement from IGR of 600 million in 1999 to 402 billion. So I think that is quite commendable. But a lot of things are still waiting to be done, especially in terms of housing. For in the past 6 years, the government has been able to build only about between 10 to 14 thousand housing units, which is not enough. We still need at least about 3-point-something million housing units, compared with about 2.5 million housing units that we have today. So there are a lot of areas that we still need to improve in terms of transportation, opening up the rural areas and all that. And of course, regional integration. In the past, people used to work in Lagos and then live in Ibadan. So we need to realize that development of Lagos is also tied to the frontier states. So there is a need for greater regional integration. I'm happy that Lagos is now part of Odua investment, which is a very remarkable step forward.
Okay, some critics have said that, look, beyond the IGR, beyond, what Lagos is getting as internal generated revenue, that Lagos is enjoying all this because there is a federal and state alignment. I'd like you to speak to that.
State alignment?
Yes.
What regards?
State and federal.
APC, state and federal alignment because of the APC dominance at the federal level.
Well, the man there is the son of the soil. And that area we have gone to should be a wake-up call to him. The template he will lay will be what the people that are coming behind will work on. So, that you have said it, it's good to emphasize it. Just like what my colleague have first said. Leaving Lagos behind and moving to Abuja, some people still feel that Lagos has been done some, there's an advantage to it.
The service.
And that's why I always insist that the government of Lagos State needs to focus attention more on advocacy, to let people understand the difficult position at which they are operating. Given what he has said now, my colleague has said now, I've always said this in some other way too. Incidentally, we conducted the search together in the 90s. We belong to the same organization that conducted the search, that the people who leave Lagos every day are far, far lesser than the people that are coming to Lagos. That was in 1992 or 1994. We did it together. So, which then means that there's a deficit every day in the life of a Lagos government. There's a deficit every day. And that is why Lagos needs to open up more demand, both from the people and from the government. Demand from the people, let's start from that. That we must understand that there are certain policies that are compulsory. It's not a persecution. For instance, if you want a nation to move forward, your policy on origin should be top-notch. So when you see last man on the road, the perception of people that they are on the road to persecute us, we have to find a way of reworking that. That the absence of last man in the 90s before Tinubu came on board is chaotic. You can be in the traffic, someone will get back, go to bed and come back, and you still be at the same point. That was the picture then. So, and when traffic moves in Lagos or anywhere in the world, your economy is moving. You know what determines the prosperity of a nation is production. You now spend 6 hours every day in the traffic. How can such a state progress? So if Lagos can then find that very, very tiny space to operate and get to the point we are today, they shouldn't be finding it difficult to tell people that you have to comply with this difficult, what they assume is a difficult law, like LASMA. For instance, too, on environment too, the refuse we generate every day of our life, we are also part of the challenge the government is having. Because the social contract we sign, the government and the people sign, I have a role to play. If I must dispose my refuse, if I dispose my refuse in a way that the officer that was supposed to come and carry didn't carry, I have broken that contract. We must make the work of government easy for them to perform. And that's why one thing I like Lagos people for. Once election is coming, we always shine our eyes. We have always been politically intelligent, brilliant, and use our wisdom. And that's why anytime you see anybody complaining in Lagos, when it's time for election, they will say, you better go back to this party. So, in a nutshell, what I'm saying is, in a sense is that the stage you find ourselves today is a stage where state government needs to open up, because all this infrastructure, if the people and the government are not on the same page, in 6 years' time, it will become decadent again. So there's a need for the people to be at the same pedestal with the people, such that we must realize that the state he has mentioned, do you know why we still become a recording decimal in that list? Lagos, Cairo, Johannesburg has dropped out. It's just informing like it was, so it's not Kinshasa. Do you know why we are recording decimal? It's because all the features of a failing state is not present in Lagos. What are the features of a failing state if you define it? You can read Noah Chomsky, Barbara Bush, Tiffany. They will define it. And it is a state where there is peace of mind. There's no insecurity. And that's why we are always rated as one of the safest states in the country. And by extension, it draws the attention of the international community to rate you as a cosmopolitan. It's not infrastructure only. Yeah. It's not trade. No. One of the things is that all those features of a foreign state, then what are the features of democracy in your state? It's not good though. The feature of democracy is first, number one, freedom of speech. One of the states in the country that have freedom of speech is Lagos. So there are things people share on social media in Lagos. If you go and say it in one state calls Ungeri, we are gone.
Okay.
So and again, freedom of judiciary and all those features. So now, sorry, quickly, now federal government now, because that's the question. It is important that the federal government also explain to people carefully that the backbone of economy of a nation requires more attention from the federal government. It's not for the love of bond that Germany is doing that. It's for the love of the Germans. Because we're a state that houses 52% economy of a nation. And you think the federal government should not be playing any role about it, which is one of the greatest problems of Lagos. Then there must be a relationship between federal government and the people, where people will be told ahead that, I know I'm saying this thing often and often, that landlord will have to give up their houses. Our buildings is going rising because people don't want to live anywhere except Lagos. And if that is the case,
there's no land.
There's no land. So you have to give up your house. You are not going to give it up for free. If your house is going rising, 70-story building, you have 4 flats before, we will give you 10. So let's prepare our mind. And that cannot be done by Lagos only. It is in conjunction with an understanding with the people of Lagos and the participation and the support of federal government.
Okay. Adewale, I want you to speak to those iconic projects that were commissioned yesterday. Yeah. The multi-agency building very close to us here, and the Olokoba Link Bridge, as well as those ones that will be unveiled today as well, the group of schools inside the Tolu School Complex. What does that say about the quality of leadership in Lagos State, and what will be the impact of this infrastructure in those areas where they are located?
Well, I think the Olokoba Link Road, I think that road, Ikorodu Road, must have been completed around 1978 or thereabout. And those who built that road did not, perceive. When you are talking about my 12, it means it was in the bush. When they call it my 12, very, very far from the main town. Now it's just here. So
it's no longer a mile now.
It's no longer my 12.
It's here now.
Right. So I think that link road, we ease the traffic on the Ikorodu Road, which is the nerve center of Lagos. Anywhere you are going, VI, thousands of vehicles pass through that road. So it's really going to ease that road. People coming from VI going to Agege and all that is going to. So I think it's a very important intervention in terms of road network building. And I also feel that I'm glad that government realizes that it still needs to build public schools. You see, the idea of public schools is to have a institution where everybody, whether you are from the son of you are the son of a minister, there is a place you all come together to meet, to interact.
How it was during the
yes, how it was in
era.
those days, you know, so that if you have a feeling of somebody coming to school without shoes, somebody coming to school without money, then you are from the rich home, then you interact and know. True. You have an understanding of the psychology of poor people. Poor people. Unlike this is that, children of the rich go to private schools, private universities, and then they come to become ministers. So when you are talking about demolishing homes, talking about poverty, they have never experienced it. They don't know what it means. Our children attended public schools. So they were in schools with children of hunters, children of vulcanizers, children of mechanics. So they made friends with them. They visit their homes. They have a feeling about what the society and people are going through. So investing in public schools is a generational project, and I think I'm glad because in Lagos, I think we have about less than 1,500 public schools. Because for so many years, especially under the military, people are not building public schools, and that's why you see the mushroom of, private institutions, which most of the time don't, they are so expensive. The common man cannot go there, and of course, they are not within the reach of the ordinary person. So I think I'm glad that Lagos State government realizes the need to invest in public schools, and I'm also glad about the quality of those schools because I've seen so many of them. They are not mushroom secondary schools. I mean, primary school. They are or secondary school. They are schools that have standard, that even rich men can put their children there. So I think it's a very important thing. And I also think that we should not leave building of public schools to the state government alone. Local governments can also build public primary schools. We have about 20 local governments. We have 20 local governments and then SCDA. So they can also invest in primary school because education, it is the root of development. So I'm glad about what the Lagos State government has done, and I think it's a lifelong investment that we expect them to also build. Look at those schools. These are schools that meet standard even in Europe, everywhere all over the world. So if you are from a rich home, you know that when you put your children here, I mean, they are going to have the best education. What is now left is to also invest more in teachers, training of teachers so that we can retain them in public schools, give them a lot of incentives, so that they can stay when they are working in a public school, so that will not be attracted by better incentives from private schools.
Okay, Razaq, Adebimpe said something earlier that it would be very nice if this can actually form the template for every school in Lagos State, government-owned schools.
Yeah, looking forward.
Yes.
In terms of facilities.
You say something about because we've been together for 30 years in the struggle. You see, he's my senior in the struggle. But I've been together with Ad for 30 years. We have always advocated that there must be a standard that all of us must maintain. Economic standard, cultural standard, because values are breaking down. One family should not be training its own child. The way he feels should train his own child. That's not how to be society. You must have a standard. What is happening in the Western world today is their standard. Don't come and tell me that in Europe they don't beat their children. They have investigated why they have to come to that conclusion. In Africa, we don't train our children like that. It's a cultural thing. You should not, and that's why it's backlashing. So in education too, there must be that standard. Not your teachers. There are curriculums in some schools that are different from government curriculum. When they are brilliant students, but when they go for common entrance, they fail because they say they are using international textbooks for us here. Where the largest cocoa producer in Nigeria, we know it. It's not Lisbon. It's not Paris. And you are using that to teach our children. So, and Lagos is a template that can be adopted. One angle that we are not also looking at is to also say that when you if you are rich, among 20 poor people, you are poor. The agenda of a regional collaboration, this is where it's come to play, because Lagos will continue to suffer. If the state around you are not moving, they will be submitting their children to your school now. Healthcare, go to Lagos. Everything, go to Lagos. And that's why that regional collaboration is important. Even if it's going to be, Lagos is going to be the champion. Look at the security thing now. Lagos has been doing a neighborhood Amotekun. We are the co-founders of Amotekun. It's a major player in the Amotekun document. But Lagos has started for a long time ago. So Lagos needs to also be a captain in that regional agreement between all of that states, so that your facility will last. If you have 25 million people in a state that are supposed to have 15 million people, how will you be able to impress the people? It will be asking questions all the time. What you have done is not. And whereas the government has done what it's supposed to do in healthcare, in education, environmental cleaning, on-road connection. So the strategy of management as a chartered public administrator is that your neighbor edict should be your edict as a country.
So do you support that?
Your neighbor's challenge.
That this should be the standard of schools in every part of the
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That not only in Lagos, them at the place where they meet, incidentally, Sanwo-Olu is the chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum. He must take that template there. He won't tell them that you are sending your children to my school, but you tell them on the basis that there must be a regional development. Just we have a regional agreement. So that even on security, if Amotekun, we did that template together and submitted to the governor. They turned it upside down for Amotekun. Sure. They started giving party people this. So the schools in Lagos is a standard for any school anywhere in the world, and we are enjoying other states to also come and look at it and study the model. Last month, they said 28 states have come to study last month in Nigeria. 28 states. So let them come and understudy this thing too. And it is not good to borrow from your son. The president can also borrow from his son now. Lagos is baby. Many of the projects he is doing today, he needs to come and look at what he has done in the past in Lagos for it to succeed. On power sector, IPP is his baby. You should look at the direction of IB. Instead of saying another 3 billion for this thing, you should look at it on road network, then on education too. What the Lagos State government has done on education, the president can also borrow it for our institutions too. It's going to work. So Lagos State has become assert itself as a template for development in Nigeria once again, with what has happened yesterday and what is happening today.
Okay, adding to what you have just said, that now that Lagos State has, asserted itself as a model state for other states, and even the federal government itself, I noticed that there is a special, there's a form of inclusivity when they were thinking about building those schools. Those people living with disabilities, there was provision for them. I'd like you to talk about, the leadership, the thinking of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, when he's now putting into practice, inclusivity, which is a plus in the Thames Plus agenda.
Experience matters a lot. That's why, if you want to choose a captain of the team, don't just choose a fresher as a captain, no. You should use someone that understands the challenge that team has. Otherwise, your team will not play as a team player. That's why we have always encouraged governments of each state that want to transit to look inward. Someone that's going to succeed you. What is working for Tinubu is because he's bringing on board people that were part of this government before. Fashola was part of the government, and to work extensively for him. Sanwo-Olu was a commissioner, not only a commissioner,
special advisor.
He was the chairman of, vice chairman of tenders board under Fashola when he was a commissioner. So all the projects he's working on, he had the idea of the skeleton of the idea. He just came to put flesh on it. So the team's agenda became realizable, became workable because of the experience he has had. So he worked as a team player, and maybe it's a local. Lagos, we have always been very lucky. We have always asked someone who understands what is called cosmopolitan city. Governor who understand, who understood mega city. You have a governor that will inherit a mega city, and he will be bringing an idea of building a hut or an hamlet for you. So we have always had a governor who has the idea of what a state should be. Before the turn of the century, Lagos is going to be 100 million. I hope you know that. And the way Lagos is planning from the future, they have braced up for it. That the way things are going, we may be 100 million at any moment. So the way we are going, the way the population, based on the data my colleague has read that.
I shared with you.
I shared. It's fast growing. It's fast growing. Not only in infrastructure, but also in population. So, we have a governors and governor now who knows what the future will also look like. In a country where the population is decreasing, they will tell you, decrease your population. In a country where the population is moving, they will say, let's plan for the future.
This is the situation at the Tolu Schools complex right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
In preparation for the inauguration of the schools. That's what we're watching on our screen right now.
That's huge.
You can see our children.
Oh, that's so we have this kind of thing in public school too now. That is a very good one.
I went to a public school. We had it.
And you had this type of thing?
Yes, in Obani
Sure?
Yes.
Because we went to
it was a complex
school.
of schools to Baptist Academy.
So you ride this?
Yes.
I thought it's me that will ride this because in the 70s.
Lagos will always be Lagos, whether in the 70s or in the 80s.
Okay.
Yes, we were the ones that started Jakode School.
Look at the
quality of facilities in the schools.
Oh, no, this is amazing. We should also superimpose and compel other governments to come and look at it and take it back to all their states. Otherwise, Lagos will suffer with this thing we are doing. Before you know, children from Anambra, from
let's move to other projects that was inaugurated yesterday. The largest building. How much or how important is digitalization of land documents and everything in Lagos right now? Adewale?
Well, I think for any city or state that, or a city-state, like Lagos, that wants to live in the current millennium, digitalization is the key. When you are talking about security, you are talking about revenue generation, you are talking about evaluation, you are talking about environment. I think it is digitalization of the political economy. And I think that what has happened is quite impressive because a lot of funds are lost because we fail to digitalize the economy. People pay into wrong hands, and there are all sorts of middlemen, cartels, that when you run into them, people lose billions of funds it's like fetching water into the basket. So I think this digitalization is going to prevent waste. It's going to ensure that the government makes more money. It's going to ensure effective revenue generation. And I also think it's not just enough to have the computer there. They are going to be manned by human beings. So there is a need for effective training of the human resource that will manage the system. Because a lot of things are going on, even now, if you want to register, you want to get your CEO and all that, there are sort of fringe elements that hang on around the secretariat that if you are not careful, you end up paying to 2, 3, 4 people. And then you may not have your C of O. So and I think, it's a very good development, but the government must ensure that it is well publicized, that people are aware and it's accessible. It's not just enough to have the IT. People on their phone must be able to have the application, and then you want to get your CFO, you should be able to do it in your bedroom. So I think I'm glad about what they have done, but it's not enough. We need to ensure that we train people that will manage it, not just on skill, on the technical aspect, but also on ethics. The work ethics is also very, very important. And I believe that it's not just about land. When you're talking about land, people think it's just about people building houses and all
structures,
that. You can use it to track people who are involved in all sorts of illicit trades. The important thing is that the person that occupies a particular
land disputes and fraud.
It's also going to eliminate the question of monile and all that. But it's not enough to think that by just having digital, then you are still not going to have the problem with monile. It's still going to be there, but it's going to minimize it. So government needs to define a system that will also take care of the cartels, the monile, what motivates them to want to disturb people on their land and all that. You need to engage them. It's not just enough to say, okay, we are going to push them out of the scene. You must engage them, either to ensure a system that will employ them as servicemen, in the process. They can be, and then to have a registered list of all estate companies in the country, the state, and then you can ensure that some of these monile are trained to serve as volunteers, to serve as agents of the existing estate, companies in this country. I mean, in the state. And I also believe that, the digitalization of the land process should also have a system whereby it will tie up to name, so that you know who owns which property. It will help us to discover a lot of things about, illicit funds, about people who are involved in all sorts of, criminal activities. If people are living in your house, you need to have their data. If you are a, landlord, you have about 50 houses. We need to know who are living there. Especially in the age of terrorism and all sorts of things. So it's not just about landlords. We should also talk about tenants. It's going to help Lagos to be able to deal with crime, to be able to deal with terrorism, especially given the surge, all over the country. So digitalization will actually help us to manage a whole lot of things, including even the environment and waste generation. Because you have about 6 people living in a particular flat, you know what job they are doing. You also be able to track what they are, what they are doing, what they are into. So that when you're talking about looking for people who are kind of liability to the state, who are criminals and all that, it will help you to be able to track them once you have their data on your system.
Okay. Sorry, Adewale. Another concern about Lagosians is about demolition of structures. After they buy the land, they get approval, from the Ministry of Lands, and again after because some of them will come and say, these are my papers. Yeah. But their building has been earmarked, for demolition, and they start to cry, How would this also solve that problem?
Yeah, you see, one of the major problems we have in Nigeria, in Lagos, is that we have lost town planning, urban and regional town planning law. In fact, since 1893 or so, which has been renewed over and over. I think that the latest one was 2010. But the problem is effective implementation and enforcement of those laws. Okay. Because what we find out is that in Lagos, you start building before you seek approval. Yes. Okay. And government officials come to that land, they see what you are doing. Some of them, you bribe them, and then they allow you to build on. Then there is no quality inspection. And that's why you see a lot of houses collapsing in Lagos. When you are building a house, government officials must come there and realize that by inspecting that house and giving you a certificate of, to give you that you have been able to pass the quality test, they are also protecting human lives. Because when those buildings collapse in future, it could be our brothers, it could be our sisters, it could be our children. So we don't have an effective monitoring system in Lagos. People build anyhow, people build on canals, and you allow them to build these structures. Maybe they have completed the building, then you come back and start demolishing those buildings. So I think that it has to start from conception. When you want to draft have your plan to even acquire a building, the government must ensure that the land you have bought is not, it's not illegal. It's not something that's going to disturb government planning. Okay. And then when you want to start planning, building that house, government officials must come there and give you approval. But the process is cumbersome. You may be seeking approval for months, for even years. So that's why people resort to self-help. And I don't think this will help, and
that is where they get into trouble.
Yeah, you get into trouble, urban and regional planning. So the government needs to ensure that there is a transparent system that is corruption-free. What is making people to do all these things? That the system is corrupt. Okay. You want to get CFO, you pay to somebody's account. Why should that happen? Then when you pay to somebody's account, instead of 100,000 naira, you have to pay 150,000 naira. It's going to help you to do it. And the government is aware. People in land registry and all that, they are aware. Most of the people that are doing this are their agents. So the government needs to sanitize that land registry to ensure that there's transparency, that you don't even need to go there before you can do it on your phone. And then if you want to pay, make payment on phone. So I think there is a whole lot of corruption in the land registry. If you go there, you see the kind of cars people use. The park, you know that this place is a hub of corruption. So government needs to sanitize that system, retrain them, make sure that they are more responsive to the aspirations and needs of Lagosians. Okay,
Razaq, whether we like it or not, politics has already started, the race for 2027. All these iconic projects and, of course, the impact that is going to have on Lagosians and their psychology as we approach another round of elections in the country. Would it sway victory the way of APC?
Of course, definitely. Sorry, quickly, 2 minutes to say add to what you have said. You see, what I've always told people is that all of us are in government too. If you go and twist the people in government to induce them to achieve something,
what you want.
there will be consequences. I think that we have to increase advocacy in that
area. Yes,
mostly,
that was why I asked that question.
Yes, mostly that's what normally happens. I will always know that place is not habitable. And we twist and bring fictitious. There was somebody, they brought to the case to civil society. This street, in the name of that street, he collected CFO for one building. In this street too, he collected 2 CFO. So eventually the building was taken over by the government. Is this and they didn't know. So if you fool the person up there, the junior officer fool someone with the connivance of someone down, someone will come in the future and discover you. So when you blame government too, always investigate very well, and you will discover that the person that is suffering that casualty knew ab initio that is taking a risk. In most cases, there are places that is under acquisition. They will say it's under, but you can perfect your document. Something that government has taken over, you still want to perfect it again. There will be consequences. Even you might not be around again. It might be your children in 50 years time. Then the Omonile issue. Before it was a cultural thing. They came around to explain the values that each state represents, and I think we have to come back to that instead of eradicating it. Where I come from in Kwara, 100% Muslim. If you are indigenous of Ilorin, you are 100% Muslim. So there's always your money issue that will come and educate you. This is a Muslim area. You are a Christian. We are friendly. There are places we don't build church, just like the Vatican City. Vatican City, you can't build mosque there. So it is a modern time that people say that we have nothing has changed in the world. Though. You saw the still rising and setting here. But today, Gen Z will say everything, nothing has changed. You can't wear your trouser and use it as a capo. So the Omonile thing in Lagos is important, given the challenges that we are having today. Let us train them and let them become a cultural ambassador of the state, so that this is our value in Lagos. Lagos is not a no man's land, though. It belongs to some people. So that ancestral history is important for us to go back to, so that when you are taking land in Lagos, don't assume that Lagos just fell from heaven. It belongs to some people. That's then. Of course, it's going to impact on politics. What is politics? My idea, your idea, we use a political party to transport us into God so that I can go and achieve that idea. Manifesto of APC, they're achieving it. There's a challenge. Generally all over the country, there's a challenge. And anybody that says that the country will go back to the same track without a challenge, the person is deceiving us. Even if it's a that is saying that, even if the president that is saying that there will be no challenge, they are deceiving us. There will be a challenge. In fact, that we are getting to the path gradually. I am shocked. I have said that the first 4 years of Tinubu is going to be a gestation period. You are not voting for me. If you like, confront me in the street. We will debate it academically. And I will say that but that Tinubu is able to stand Dangote to the final on his leg. In Lagos here, is a big achievement. The dollar that is being added to us is being able to resolve it. You have to give kudos to that. This is happening in Lagos again. So Lagos is going to be a major campaign point for APC. If any party says that, what is Lagos doing? Tell us a party in another state that has turned their own state to what Lagos has become. Tell us, show us one state, at least 1, 2, 3 states. Are there any of the party? So, we like it or not, it's a campaign. Though. It is a campaign because what's campaign? It's not thuggery. It's not to come and start stabbing each other. It's like a fiesta. It's like a party.
Show me what you have done.
Yeah, show me what you have done. That's what campaign is all about. This is what I've done, and I promise you, I'm going to improve the economy such an extent. If you want to pursue like an agenda of someone like us that have, the cultural agenda I always pursue. If you want to become people, you have the opportunity to become that. If you want, you are under our party. You are, and I said, you see, maybe the other party should be looking at maybe some other time. With the picture we are seeing in the country today,
Lagos.
In Lagos today, maybe they should be looking at some other time. But with what we are seeing now, with all these legacy projects, 2 railway, and the economy is booming, okay, if it's not working, why is it that every crisis in the country where you are looking for solution is Lagos? It means it's working. So for us, the thing Lagos just needs to do, particularly the Mr. President needs to do, is to begin to look at each state one after the other. What is the likely crisis that may affect them in Lagos? Look at it and address it. The question of candidacy, the question of candidacy should be someone that has capacity to continue what you are doing. If you don't put someone that has capacity that's going to continue what you are doing, there may be a problem. And that's why we need someone with experience, who understands the blueprint of the party, who knows that if I do this is the next. 4 million, this bridge is coming. We are doing Korodu Road. We are going to expand the Ajah Road so that when it's descending vehicles into those two ups, that expansion road is there already. Intercontinental Road, billions of dollars coming in from Kuton every day. How do we expand it to make it work? Just like what Bola has done in Nigeria. We need a government like that too. We need someone who will take us to the next level and sustain the good things. It takes a governor to rubbish all the things they have done in the last 20-something years. So it takes one governor, and within 2 years, he will turn up to your side, and the president will not make that mistake. There are still, like, for instance, in Kwara now, there are so many crises in Kwara that if the president didn't choose who is going to consume that state into an out of Bukola Saraki. The center are saying that they need to produce governor again. The center, that's they say, and the argument is there. So if you go and say you want to satisfy the right of the Kwara North or the Kwara South, and you use that to mislead the president. Yes. So for me, this election that is coming, Tinubu has fundamentally given his party something to showcase. In the last 6 or 7 years, he has given them something to showcase. You know, what he just needs to do is just to tap the ball into the net. Just tap the ball into the net. And tapping the ball into the net, you must be meticulous and you must be very careful about that. So for me, I don't see any crisis or any problem with the party. The people of Lagos, I know they will always, when it comes to election time, they will always do the needful. They will say, no, please let us put aside all this social media talk. Let's do the needful. Let's Lagos have free traffic flow. Let's be able to sleep with our 2 eyes closed. Let's be able to, so let's do what we have been doing in the past again this time.
Let's be able to go to the market
yes.
to buy food. And this brings me to the next project, which is the agro-food hub in Abijo. How important is this project at this time when we're experiencing hike in prices of food items?
You're asking me that? Okay. You see, there's no country in the world that wants to say it's responsible without paying attention to food. You must pay attention to food. You have to pay attention to food. If any government, because Yoruba says that that the problem is half solved though if you are able to eat something. And that is what I think is the thinking of the Lagos State government when they fight. And it's a United Nations recommendation that people may not be able, complexity are setting in the world today that survival is so difficult that some people may not be able to feed themselves, that it requires the intervention of the government. It requires the intervention of the non-state sector. And I think that's why Lagos keep borrowing from that international standard. That, okay, that's correct. The government is making money. Let us subsidize the food that people will be eating. You see, when you have elderly citizens, the government is, the problem is half solved. But when you have a situation that's getting sick all the time, there's a problem because you have to pay attention. You spend more on healthcare, you spend more on drugs, you spend more on so many things that you have to continue to make the people look at it. So it has to be sustained. And that's why I kept saying this. Lagos government should take note. If you don't encourage your neighbors to be doing it, people from Ogun or Ekiti or Osun will come and be collecting this food. You must work them. The civil society, we are the leaders of self-determination group. We talk to these governors. Now you can't be watching Lagos doing all these things alone. You have to be doing, you are collecting the allocation like Lagos to the government. And it's operating on a very small parcel of land. You have land 5 times bigger than Lagos. So, and Lagos will also tacitly be doing that too, if not directly. Otherwise, some people who came from some of these states will be the one on social media making complaints every day. That time you look at Lagos, and Lagos is not. From all these states that is rickety and God-forsaken, they will come and be saying that. So For Lagos state government to be able to take the glory, once you are able to tell Lagosians that we are doing it, you must also be able to tell your colleagues too that what I'm doing. I'm not saying I'm taking over governance from you, but let's be working at the same template. Let's have a regional agreement where our agro-allied policy will be similar. If I'm encouraging my people buying subsidized tractors for them, you should also be doing that. Not that I'll be doing this thing, you will be doing this, and at the end of that, for the population of Ekiti or Oyo or Kwara, everybody will find them back in Lagos again. That's not going to work. And that's why it is compulsory. It is very, very compulsory that we must be assertive. We must keep insisting that there must be that regional collaboration. Not because we want to fight banditry all the time, not because we want to break Nigeria, no, but because of this kind of initiative. It's important.
Okay, Adewale, I'd like you to talk about, can this food hub, realistically solve the issue of hiking food prices in Lagos?
Well, I think there should be short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategic planning. Okay. The short-term is to reduce prices of goods for people to be able to access it, and to be able to buy, to increase their ability to have access to consumables. The medium term is to see how we can turn Lagos itself to a producer of these goods. Lagos consumes about 30 million tons of, close to 30 million metric tons of tomatoes every day. But 90% of these tomatoes, onions, come from the north. Now, strategically, you have to look at the situation where if there is some challenges and these foods do not come to Lagos, what do we do? In Lagos now, you have a situation where people are told that we have pineapple from Cotonou, go to the market, Cotonou, pineapple. Gari from Cotonou, go to the market, they tell you this. Lagos land limitation, I think 3,577 square kilometers. It's a small place. But there are many countries in the world, very small countries, but with creative thinking, long strategic thinking, they can turn that small environment into an agricultural hub. Lagos can be the biggest producer of fish in Africa. We have 186 kilometer coastline. We have about 50 lagoons. What are we doing about production of fishes? Then if you don't have land to produce food, you can partner with Kwara State. Kwara and Oyo State, our own conception of the Old West, they are the biggest in terms of land mass. Even Ekiti, Lagos State government can invest in agriculture in Ekiti, even in Ogun State. So Lagos should not just be thinking of being consumers. Lagos should have strategic thinking, of how it can also turn itself into producer of agro products. I visited a family in Canada years back. You know that the metric tons of tomatoes they produce is in their own home, but it's one of the biggest in their own community. Every tomato is planted, in about 10 acres of land. A home, the upstairs house, is where they live. The whole downstairs is tomatoes. So agriculture has gone high tech. That Lagos can still get places in Ikorodu, in Epe, that they can go into poultry, they can go into even production of vegetables. If you go towards my 2 area, individuals are producing lettuce, producing cucumber, they are producing onions in those areas. So I believe that Lagos should have a kind of long-term plan to be a producer of consumables, vegetables and food items, especially fishes, because this is a coastal area. So we need to stop depending 100% on tomatoes and consumables from outside Lagos State. Lagos can invest in frontier states or your state, and then I also think that in terms of partnership with the private sector, Lagos has done a lot, but there are still so many loose ends that are yet to be tapped. In those days, you have private companies, even NEPA, they have housing units for their workers.
Sure.
National Bank had housing units for their workers. So Lagos, in terms of providing accommodation, healthcare, schooling, Lagos needs to have a special partnership with the private sector because so many of them are here with Dangote, with MTN, in terms of having a project like housing, like healthcare, like education. Because the pressure on Lagos is too much. In my own community where I live in Ikeja, there are people from Borno State, they are Arabs. There are 2 local governments who are Arabs in Borno State. They are from there, they are going to public schools in Lagos. Their parents were killed by Boko Haram, they all move here. People you see on Okada, they want to put their children in public schools. They want to go to health care centers, public health centers, and the population is increasing every day. So there's no way Lagos alone can manage this situation. There must be strategic partnership with the private sector. There must be kind of funds that they need to pay, in terms of Lagos going to invest in, in housing and all that. Lagos cannot do it alone. There must be a law that will compel private sector banks who have their headquarters here. They must invest in housing. They must invest in railways. And you cannot just do it by having mutual meetings. There must be strict laws that will make them to compare that you need to pay certain funds, environmental, pollution and all that. They need to pay for it. Corporate organization must be compelled by law to invest, in a development of Lagos, giving legal provision. And I also think that I'm from Ekiti State, but I need to say it here. We need a strategy that will take into consideration the indigenes of Lagos. I'm not from Lagos State. And I know other countries do it. Chile does it, Brazil does it. There must be a certain percentage of fund for people who are indigenous to Lagos. It's not just about having the next governor must be from Lagos. There must be institutional framework that will make it very difficult to rubbish any man whose assentors are Lagosians. So even we don't have a Lagosian being the governor or minister or whatever, there must be certain, that will say 3% of the budget, 1% of the budget, education for indigenous of Lagos, free health services for them, housing for them, so that we can turn around Balogun areas, Awori areas and all that, and give them certain concessions because they are indigenous of Lagos. We did that proposal, submitted to Lagos State government a long time ago. Unfortunately, we couldn't even get the courtesy of acknowledgement. But that has to be done because there is a kind of underground agitation going on. And I think that if there is institutional framework to take care of indigenous of Lagos, that thing is going to be, the agitation will be, minimized.
Okay, Razaq, we can see what the government is doing with the taxpayers' money. So, as a tax-compliant Lagosian, the question is for the two of you. For those who are not paying their taxes, what do you think will be going through their minds now? And for those that are paying, how happy or excited do you think they will be seeing some of these iconic projects?
Yeah,
yes, when you see, when taxes are put to use, it gives happiness to the heart of people who are actually paying the tax. And for people who are not paying tax, they are not feeling bad though. Don't let us deceive ourselves.
Why are they not feeling bad?
They're not
when they are
feeling
seeing
bad,
all this
majority
projects.
are not feeling bad.
Why?
Maybe they thought it was their ancestors that are paying tax. Because many people that are not paying tax, you see them on social media. They'll be saying the same thing with me, and I'll be looking at this man, where did you pay the tax? They'll be saying taxpayers, which taxpayers' money?
They're not paying tax.
So you are not paying tax, Mr. Man. And that is why, see, laws, if it is by emotion, it will not be obeyed, though. Except if it touch our conscience. Let's attach all achievement to payment of tax. If you see this good thing working, it's because people are paying tax. That's where it begins from. And some people will remember that it is true. In my life, there's nothing directly or indirectly that I'm paying to government. That we have many families like that in Lagos. Directly, they are not paying anything to government. And they are the people that we see on social media all the time. Any working entity is a taxing entity. And that's the next level where Lagos must begin to look at. And that's why the moment you are coming to Lagos, you must have that instant orientation that you are coming into a completely different environment. There are places in Manhattan. The fact that you are driving through it, you are paying tax. You are driving through it, you didn't stop, because the facility there, the infrastructure there takes them a lot of money to build. There are states that they have, and if you explain this to Nigeria, saying, it's because we have oil money. That's why this thing looks as if manna is falling from heaven. So that's why the next level Lagos is going now. We have to increase our advocacy for the citizens and to buttress what my colleague has also said about all these things that Lagos government has to do. Let's take the advantage of this window opportunity. We don't have to moralize it. When Jonathan was there, Jonathan was giving 5 conventional allocations to the people of South. The monthly allocation, Niger Delta allocation, NDDC, Amnesty. Now, the government, the president there is from Lagos State. The pain Lagos State government is going to, you have felt it too. I led many protests against Obasanjo when he seized local government phone. He made several attempts to arrest me, to suppress, not to say it again. So now that you are there, it's not a question of moral issue. There should be a justification for federal government to pay attention to Lagos having that special fund. It is important. There's no how Lagos will survive it. And if you keep pushing Lagos the way we are pushing Lagos, there will be a crisis in the future. When you think the money you are making and the population is increasing, there will be implosion very soon in Lagos. And the fund we are making will not be able to take care of them. There's no way we are going to look at it. Infrastructure, healthcare facility, security, environmental issue. It's not going to be enough. And that's why you see people don't understand the complexity of it. Still say, Lagos government is not doing enough. Which enough? With which money? Coming from where? So but if you educate people, people tend to understand and be reasonable with you. If you make them understand, oh, this is it. So for us, tax is very, very essential. We have to pay our tax. If you want to see this good thing to continue, forget politics. Let's look at all these things objective. I'm talking to opposition now. When your opposition is doing well, you have to admit that you are doing, so that the day you are going to come up there too, people who are, or in the other state too, people will agree that you are also doing well. That is wisdom with sanity. In Nigeria, I don't understand why ruling class behave like that. They will decimate. Let's go and check what is happening on social media now. Go and see what the opposition is saying. And I feel sad for them that with all this achievement, and you are saying what you are saying. So, Lagosians, let's appreciate what the government is doing. It is time for us to start and begin to pay our taxes. It's important. Without tax, they can't get to the point we have gotten to today.
Okay.
Adewale, you want to respond to that question?
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree with him that tax all over the world is a moral and legal obligation, because it's from the tax that the government, will be able to take care of, social amenity, social needs and all sorts of economic needs of the people. However, people are reluctant to pay tax because there is this feeling that if I pay the tax, what is the outcome? What do I get from the government? And I think there are 2 layers. The first one is people need to be aware that the government is doing something. And mere issuing of statements, oh, we have done this, is not enough. How many people read your statements? That is why engagement of civil society and community-based organizations is important. If you are passing information, for instance, let's say from OPC, who meet every Tuesday, their leader is talking to them. This is what they believe, that leader more than the state governor. His own organization, if the meetings they hold all the time, if he goes there and say, look, this is what is happening, they have trust in him. So government is not always about issuing statements. You must engage stakeholders, explain to them what you are doing, and then try to rationalize your policies, so that when people are talking, it's not just about government talking alone, but people who are not in government are also, defending the policies of the government. I also think that government needs to deal with the issue of multiple taxation.
Okay.
For instance, if you have a jeep, I don't know whether they have stopped that now, but I know it's still happening in some other parts of the country. If you have a jeep and you are driving a pickup, they will stop you on the road. The papers they will be asking for, sometimes almost about 20 different papers. And when you go to local government, you will never get those things complete. Go to Kenya local government. If you drive anywhere at a point in Lagos, go to Mushin and all that, they will stop you. My car had been, impounded at Mushin on one occasion some years back. They ask you for all sort of, you give them almost about 20-something papers, yet it's not enough. So we need to harmonize so that you don't pay this tax, pay this tax, pay this tax. There is the need for us to harmonize and stop this kind of multiple taxation. So I believe that people are ready to pay tax if they can see the results. And they may not see the result unless the government blows its trumpet. Educate the people, speak on it, and also get advocates to talk to stakeholders about what the government is doing. But tax payment, I think we should not expect that people will just pay willy-nilly. People have always reset taxes from centuries. Even when Awolowo introduced free education, he brought in what he calls salt tax. People should pay tax on salt. They resisted. In fact, in Badagry, there was armed resistance that they went to the coast to carry gun that they will not pay the tax. Awolowo had to go there with the Oba of Badagry to go and appeal to them that this fund is for free education. That if you can pay this thing, I'm going to give you free education and then you will benefit from it. So you had to go there. They took up arms against the government. You know, you had to go on Kano with the Oba of Badagry to go and meet them. So people don't want to pay because there is, you know, jealousy and resistance against government all over the world.
Lack of trust.
You know, a lack of trust. So you need to educate them. You need to create a channel that will be able to reach out to them, not just to say from your office, pay tax, and then you go and sleep. You need to explain to them, I want to use this money for this process, I want to do this, and then not just you speaking alone, get people that are trusted, community leaders, to also speak to the populace so that they could be able to have some level of trust about what the government is doing.
Okay, we've talked about all the projects. No, we haven't touched on the 19 stadiums, you know, built in Ajegunle. Of course, that will encourage sports and youth development. But my question right now is about sustainability and about accountability. How do we ensure now that, you know, these projects are being maintained adequately?
You know, there are numerous agencies in Lagos, and all those agencies, until they stop what they are doing, you will not realize their importance. And all those agencies are multi-layered. In Lagos, the flowers that you build around you, there are agencies that will come and tell you that they are not in good condition. They are in Lagos. People don't know. The car wash, I have car wash. And that car wash, the condition, it is the last rain that fell did the damage to it. And they approached me, they said, this is on our expressway, the aesthetic of it is important, we have to quickly repair it. So I am convinced beyond reasonable doubt that the maintenance of all those structures has been factored. And that's why people who don't understand public administration, you see, in media now, there are things that you say that I say I will never say it when I come here. But you have a way of bringing it out of my mouth. Even today, that's your profession. That's his own profession. That's what you are trying to do. So in public administration, some people don't know the title of certain budgets. They tell, look at it, they say they should be washing car for 1 billion naira. You are not a budget expert. And that's the biggest challenge we have in the country today. That this lack of training of the people that we will mentor, that will ordinarily understand what we are saying. So maintenance is very important. What we need to do is to make sure that those institutions and agencies that are responsible for ensuring they are in good condition are also well trained in terms of manner and ethics. Day in, day out, we train last month. Day in, day out. You see incident today, tomorrow is been addressed. And that's how they got to the point where they are today. Also, on environmental issues too. Saturday, last Saturday has come back now again. So those maintenance is also important. That if you don't maintain it, it's your money that will come and use to rebuild another one. Particularly community maintenance. When roads are constructed, you have to be assertive. If a vehicle that is meant to pass the highway is passing your community, that's a community maintenance. You have to resist. That if you are building your house, this is the tonnage of vehicle that are supposed to pass through this area. So all those schools, I built a school in Moshi. They run shift. The people, all those boys they run shift with the teacher. By 4 PM, they send them away that the teacher should go back home. But the community have resisted them. Today, there's no school in Moshi today that the area boys sleep again. That's community. So outside having the institution to sustain it, there must also be community maintenance, that you must defend the infrastructure of the state.
Take ownership.
Take ownership. That's maintenance. So take ownership. So, and you know, in Lagos, it's working. We have the CDA. We have so many things. Heightened insecurities in the country. If you park a vehicle anywhere in Lagos now, after 48 hours, they'll start looking for who is the owner of this vehicle, and that has to be sustained. That has to be sustained. And that is why you don't see us going back to the project we have done last year to come and do it again. It's maintenance by the institution and by the community, which is the apex of maintenance all over the world, such that anywhere you go to in the world, in the developed, when you are destroying public, when there's no protest, you'll be challenged. That's policing and maintenance.
All right, we must thank you very much, gentlemen. Adewale Adeoye, journalist and political observer, and as well as Razaq Olokoba, public affairs analyst, for coming to speak today to the presidential visit of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu right here in Lagos, where he's meant to unveil some iconic project embarked upon by the administration of Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. We thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we quickly take a break at this moment. We'll be right back.